Well, my sanity depended upon the result of UFC Rio's main event, and I am happy to make this video and announce to you that all is good, man. Charles Oliveira is back in the win column as he submitted Mateusz Gamrot in round number 2. And guess what, man? This wasn't a fight that needed all, the X's and O's, the intricacies when it came to a breakdown, because this was pure domination. This was absolute, utter domination by Charles Oliveira from start to finish. And I cannot tell you how impressed with Charles Oliveira I am in this fight, man. But yeah, it's a good feeling, man. There's certain fighters in the UFC that whenever they're winning, man, the sport is just better. And it just makes you smile, man. It just makes you happy. And listen, Charles Oliveira, he is one of those guys. He's beloved by the fans. He's an absolute savage. And shout out to Mateusz Gamrot, man. Stepped in on short notice to take this fight against a super dangerous guy in Charles Oliveira. We just saw levels, man. We just saw levels. So I want to recap Charles's performance, and then I want to discuss what I want to see next for Charles Oliveira, and then I will preview that fight because I think you all know where I am heading with that. And I feel like a lot of us want to see that fight next. So we will talk about that after we recap this. We got to talk about Charles's performance, man. What did we know coming into this? That Mateusz Gamrot is a grinder, right? He's a guy he's a grinder, dog. He's going to come after you. He's going to put that pace on you. He's going to utilize the footwork, and he's going to want to get to his takedowns. However, nothing worked for him in this fight, man. He was actually having more success on the feet than with the grappling. And Gamrot's first initial takedown attempt, I was like, oh, he's fucked. He's absolutely fucked, man, because Charles was threatening submissions off of the bottom. This was a vintage Charles Oliveira performance, man. I just can't express how impressed I am with Charles, man. It was a masterclass. He just showed levels. It was absolutely dominant, man. Absolutely dominant. And right, there was a lot riding on this, right? Charles is 35 now? Coming off of a devastating KO loss back at UFC 317 to Ilya, right? But we all know that Gamrot ain't Ilya, dog. Like, Ilya is a very special fighter. This was not the same kind of challenge in terms of the danger factor, right? Stylistically, it was a different matchup. Charles approached it that way, man. To be a guy that got flatlined just a few months ago, come out here like a bat out of hell, get right in Gamrot's face, the usual Charles that we're used to seeing, acting like nothing ever happened, is exactly what I expected from Charles, man. Bulletproof mindset, man. Bulletproof mindset, got right in the face of Mateusz Gamrot, was landing some good shots, backing him up, putting him on his heels. And if you're going to get after a good wrestler, that's the best way to do it. And that's what I expected Charles to do. Apply that heavy pressure, move forward, get the kicking game going, start to let his hands fly, and then eventually Gamrot would shoot, and he did. And then Charles ended up on bottom, but he was threatening with submissions, and that is what I said coming into this fight, man, was that's why I picked Charles by sub. I'm like, there's no way a guy like Gamrot, who, yeah, like I said, Gamrot's got some sneaky little sting on his shots, right? He's had some finishes back in the day, but whenever he fights the better competition, he's not finishing anybody. That's just the reality. And the fact that you were heading into a 25-minute fight with the most prolific and dangerous finisher we've ever seen in the history of the sport in Oliveira, that's a hard sell to me. That Gamrot's just going to go in there and win some sort of, grinded out wrestling decision over Charles. I just never really saw that as an option in this fight. Obviously, if Gamrot was going to win, that's how he was going to get it done. But it was an amazing performance by Charles, man. Put the pressure on him right away, started attacking him with the kicks. Gamrot shot, got uncomfortable, and then in round 2, you just saw this switch flip from Charles Oliveira. He's like, I ate a couple shots, right? Because that is the one thing about Charles that we all know, and it was making me nervous. It's why I was on the edge of my seat, because I was like, dog, if somehow Gamrot KOs Charles, I mean, I'm not making a recap. I'm just going to act like it's AI again. I'm going to act like this thing never happened. And I just don't know how we would have reacted, man. That would have been absolutely horrible to see that, right? It would have been crazy, but absolutely horrible. So good thing that didn't happen. Ate a couple shots from Gamrot, but at the end of the day, we know that Gamrot's not super dangerous, but still, he was eating some shots, man. Charles was moving forward, being the same old Charles. But at the end of the day, it's the danger factor that Charles brings to the table, man. And he came out in round 2 with a totally different approach. He's like, this guy's good, but he's not on my level. He's just not on my level. Went right after him and even shot his own takedown and was able to take Mateusz down. Was able to take down Matty Boy, man. How impressive is that? Right, if I was to say, what would Gamrot's only advantage be coming into this fight against Charles? You might be able to say, well, the wrestling, cardio maybe, pace, right? But most people would say the wrestling, and Charles out-wrestled him. He did. Gamrot got that, the takedown in the first round, but how about Charles, man? Came out, shot his own takedown, was able to take him down, get to the back and find the rear naked choke, man. Charles Oliveira is just that guy, man. He's just that guy, man. And it's so inspirational because whenever you see a guy that, he's kind of had these ups and downs through his career, right, in the featherweight division, comes up to 55. Remember people back in the day were calling Charles a quitter? Right? Remember all that stuff? It was like he was giving up in fights and all this and that, and comes up to 55, goes on a crazy, run, wins the title, does all these different things, gets knocked out by Ilia Topuria a few months ago, comes back and goes out there and doesn't just beat Mateusz Gamrot, who, by the way, is a super, super talented fighter in this weight class. A lot of guys aren't excited to fight Gamrot, right? Because he's got that kind of troubling style with the pace, the pressure, the cardio, the grappling, right? And Charles Oliveira said, nah, let his ass step in on short notice. And I'm not just going to go out there and win in Brazil, but I'm going to absolutely dominate this guy, man. That is how damn good Charles Oliveira is, man. Super happy that Charles Oliveira is back in the win column. I picked him to get this done by submission for basically exactly what we saw. Put the heavy pressure on Gamrot. We knew Gamrot was going to look to shoot, try to take him down. It's a tough sell to me, man, that you're going to be grappling and rolling around with Charles Oliveira in these grappling exchanges for 25 minutes. It's just way too much time against a super dangerous jiu-jitsu ace like Charles Oliveira. And like I said, coming in, his wrestling has really improved, man. It really has. It really has. Look at the Chandler rematch, right? The way he went out there and just was ragdolling Michael Chandler around, making Michael Chandler look like he's never wrestled a day in his life. And newsflash, Chandler's a pretty good grappler. Right, I know that people were kind of writing that off because they're like, well, look what Paddy Pimblett did. And yeah, that was impressive what Pimblett did to Michael Chandler. But we're still seeing the evolution in the style of Charles Oliveira. A guy that's getting later in his career is still improving in different aspects of his game, man. His defense still makes me so damn nervous, man. Walks forward into range. Gamrot was landing a few shots. But I feel like part of that was Charles just didn't respect any bit of the striking power that Gamrot brought to the table. He knew what a lot of us knew, which was Gamrot ain't that dangerous. He's going to have to show me. Well, that was kind of the mindset of Oliveira. He's going to have to show me because I'm just going to walk him down, show him no respect. And then in round 2, you clearly got to see that. Put the heavy pressure on him, took his ass down. I mean, that is crazy, man, that he went out there and out-wrestled Gamrot in round 2. Took his ass down, got to the submission. And I got to tell you, man, when it comes to watching grappling, right, I love watching Khamzat, Islam Makhachev, right? We got some guys out there that have these super unique styles like Merab and all these different paces and all these different things going on with their games. It is hard to find a more entertaining overall grappler than Charles Oliveira. Is it not? I mean, how good is Charles, man? How fun is he to watch on the ground? That's what I was literally saying as I'm watching the fight. I'm like, man, I really appreciate this guy's ground game, man. Not only on the feet is Charles super fun, moving forward, charging into range, throwing these big shots, but the way that he just scrambles around on the ground. Like if he ends up on bottom, he's not just laying there like, ref, when are you going to stand me up, man? Stand me up, please. Throwing his hands up like, ref, when are we going to get a stand up? No, he's threatening with triangles, threatening with arm bars, omoplatas. Right, trying to look for sweeps, trying to bump and create space. And then when he gets to your back, I mean, it's just one thing after another from Charles Oliveira. I think he just might be. I mean, we got Khamzat with the takedowns, right? He's a super entertaining grappler. Charles Oliveira is definitely up there in terms of one of the most entertaining grapplers in the history of the sport. We all know he's an amazing finisher. That was an amazing performance by Charles, man. It feels so good, man. It feels so good, dude, because my mood, it was going to be heavily impacted if we saw Charles Oliveira lose this fight. And now it opens the door for a huge fight. And the huge fight is Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira, right? Max Holloway, I believe he's injured, right? So he's going to be out the rest of the year. He'll be back in 2026. The timeline, it just fits perfectly, man. Charles made the quick turnaround after getting KO'd by Ilia. Holloway's coming off of a big victory over Poirier when he put on that masterclass back at UFC 318. It is absolutely the fight to make, man, right? And when we talk about the BMF title, I know people are like, it's a gimmick belt, man. This ain't WWE. Who cares? Shut up. All right, shut up, man. Shut up, man. Shut up. You know what I'm saying? Listen, I get it. It's kind of annoying, right? Because it is kind of this gimmick belt. But by the same token, you know what it is, all right? You know what the BMF belt is. You got to fit the criteria. Right, what's the criteria? You got to be walking around like Nate Diaz. What's up, man? What's up? You got to be like Nate Diaz. You got to be like Masvidal with the heads behind the back going, doing the whole Tony Montana act. You got to be Dustin Poirier, rubbing your hair, touching the shorts, getting it spray tan before the fight before you go in there. You got to be Max Holloway, a guy that's willing to point down and slug it out. You got to be a Gaethje, right? He's willing to go out there and lay it on the line. And we know Charles Oliveira fits that criteria. He's a BMF. He's a BMF. The BMF is basically an agreement that we're going to go in there and we're going to bang it out and we're going to have a super entertaining scrap. And that's what we're going to get. So that's why we need Charles Oliveira versus Max Holloway. Now, I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous on the side of Charles Oliveira because Max Holloway is a different animal at 155 pounds. We've seen that, right? I've pointed that out numerous times. I picked Max Holloway to stunt on Justin Gaethje back at UFC 300, and I took a lot of heat for that. People are like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Max is going to get Tony Ferguson. Gaethje's going to send him into the shadow realm and all these different things. And what happened? I even said Max was going to get a finish, right? I got lucky because it was in the final seconds. But Max Holloway's a different dude at 55, man. Stunning on Justin Gaethje like that. Making him look like he doesn't know how to strike. Then going out there and putting on a masterclass against, yeah, I get it's later in the career, but a very, in shape Dustin Poirier, man. A motivated guy to try to go out on top before he goes into retirement. And Max was dropping him around left and right. Max Holloway's a different dude at 55, man. And what do we know about Charles? He gets hit a lot. He gets hit a lot. And I know that back in the day, it was like, well, Max is just kind of float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, touch you up, throw the volume. And you weren't really worried about getting knocked out, right? It was kind of like, an accumulation of the damage, and he would ramp it up. And then you get, TKO'd up against the fence. The ref stops in. You're just not responding. Now we're like, oh, dude, Max Holloway, he might knock somebody out, right? Because he did it to Gaethje. He was dropping Dustin Poirier. And that's where I get scared for Charles Oliveira. It's where I get scared. Because on the feet, Charles has that super sweet Muay Thai style to watch, man. He's super aggressive, charges forward. He's got the elbows, the knees, the kicks, the hands. But Max Holloway's fast at 55, man. He's Mr. Speedy Gonzalez in the lightweight division. He's got the power. We know he's got good boxing. He's added more kicks into his game, and he's looked impressive. He's looked very, very impressive. And against these older legends in the weight class, like the Gaethjes, like the Poiriers, he's had their numbers. And it's not like Max has just went in there and been in these barn burners. They've been lopsided fights, man. Up until he knocked out Gaethje, it was a pure domination masterclass. Against Poirier, it was a masterclass. One-sided pretty much, right? Poirier, I think, dropped him at one point, right? But for the most part, it was Max just completely shutting him out. So it's a scary fight for Charles Oliveira, but it absolutely is the fight that should happen. Max Holloway's coming off of a huge victory over Poirier. He's looked sensational at 155 pounds. He's the BMF champion. Ilia Topuria is probably going to fight Gaethje. We got Paddy Pimblett in the wing. Arman Sarukian versus Dan Hooker going on, and presumably Arman would win, so then he'll fight for the title. We got all this stuff going on. We have two massive names here, two guys that fit the criteria for the BMF belt. Let's run it. And it's a rematch from back in the day. Remember Holloway and Charles when they ran at 45? Max Holloway was able to get that one done, I believe, right? So now this is redemption opportunity for Charles Oliveira. Two of the most respectful guys in the sport, two of the most beloved guys in the sports, where it kind of sucks because it feels like the Poirier versus Holloway fight all over again. And when Max fought Gaethje as well, it's like, I don't want to see either guy lose. I don't want to have to make a pick. But in terms of, watching it as a fan, two respectful guys. They're going to be super respectful in the buildup. They let their fighting do the talking. It's a badass fight, man. And I got to tell you, if the fight hits the floor, Charles Oliveira, I think that he could be the guy to submit Max Holloway. I feel like he could definitely have the advantage there and definitely find a way to beat Max that way. But I don't know, man, with the speed of Max Holloway, the elusiveness, the sticking and moving, and we've seen that Max's takedown defense early in his career, it was a little suspect, but now towards the latter part here, later in his career, he's basically impossible to take down. Now, I know you could say, well, he hasn't fought anybody with a great ground game. I mean, that's sort of true to a degree, right, depending on the matchup. It's an amazing matchup, man. Charles, to me, if he goes out there and tries to stand and just bang with Max Holloway, I think he gets stopped. I think Max Holloway could get him out of there. There's a speed advantage. We know Charles gets hit a lot. Right now, I don't think Ye's got some power because if Charles lands on anybody, he could definitely hurt anybody in this weight class. It's an amazing matchup, man. Two big names, two BMFs. They both fit the criteria. Let's run it, man. Charles is, the most prolific finisher of all time. And then you got Max Holloway with how many records does Max have when it comes to the significant strikes? I don't have to sell you guys on this. This is the fight to make, man. It's the fight to make. They're both kind of in no man's land a little bit in the lightweight division. And then the winner, they could find themselves not only still having the BMF belt, which we get it. It's kind of just a way to pump up a fight, man. Make it a fun title fight. They could find themselves fighting Ilia Topuria, whoever the lightweight champ is at some point. So I want that fight next, man. It's a banger. Two fan favorites, two absolute savages. They'd be respectful in the buildup. They're, two guys that people love to root for. Amazing styles. Let's run it, man. Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira should be next. My early prediction, though, I would lean towards Max Holloway for now, early lean. I think that might be as fun of a fight as it would be if Charles doesn't grapple, because it's a BMF fight and he tries to kind of play into that thing. It might be a little bit of a problem considering the speed of Max Holloway and how hittable Charles Oliveira is, man. That defense, it makes me worried, man. That Charles Oliveira defense always makes me worried. But super impressive what Charles Oliveira just did to Mateusz Gamrot. Absolutely dominated him. That was a masterclass. Shout out to Charlie Olives, man. Back in the win column. Life is good.